Every time, whenever game is gone on, so you might have heard about the systolic dysfunction, but not the diastolic. I myself have attended so many CMEs, but none of them have had this diastolic dysfunction. It is a complicated chapter because the diagnosis is very difficult. So nobody is presenting diastolic dysfunction. But I am presenting because I have made it easy and you will understand very nicely. Like, today we are learning this diastolic dysfunction, known as diastology. Regarding introduction, you will see that incidence and prevalence. Incidence in India is 0.49 to 1.9 million per year, and prevalence in India is 8 to 10 million, that is 1.2 per thousand people. Incidence in US is 6,50,000 per year, and prevalence is 5 million. This is responsible for 30 to 50% of congestive heart failure and is increasing 1% per year. Regarding age, incidence increases with age. Over 55 years, this is common. More common in elderly women. Regarding race, more common in black patients. Nevertheless, incidence of prevalence of heart failure in India is bound to increase due to increased life expectancy, number one, increased prevalence of diabetes mellitus, coronary heart diseases, hypertension, obesity, smoking, and the contribution of congenital heart diseases and rheumatic heart disease that also seems to be a substantial cause. The normal function of diastole is what? The normal function is to allow ventricular filling within physiological rate with elevation of left ventricular and diastolic pressure. Now, so the diastolic dysfunction includes what? Number one, elevation of left ventricular and diastolic pressure with normal LV and diastolic volume and normal ejection fraction, means 50 to 70% of the ejection fraction will be there. Here LV is hypertrophic, rigid and non-compliant. So here problem is of relaxation of the LV. And what is systolic dysfunction? It implies elevation of left ventricular and diastolic pressure with raised LV and diastolic volume. Diastolic dysfunction, you see, there was the normal LV and diastolic volume, but here it is raised LV and diastolic volume. Then there is decreased ejection fraction in systolic dysfunction, but there it was normal ejection fraction. Then here due to chronic pressure overload or chronic volume overload, problem is of contraction of the LV. But there the problem was of relaxation of the LV. But here there is problem of contraction of the LV. Now systolic dysfunction is common and it is 70% on the globe. And diastolic function is less common, it is only 30% on the globe. Then diastolic dysfunction is characterized by what? Number one, impaired left ventricular relaxation, abnormal left ventricular filling, elevated filling pressure and diastolic heart failure, which includes signs and symptoms of heart failure and normal left ventricular ejection fraction. Heart failure with preserved ejection fraction means ejection fraction should be more than 50%. Is diastolic heart failure, excluding what to exclude? Severe valvular regions, previous low ejection fraction, then constrictive pericarditis. We try to comply the international as well as national data on preserved ejection fraction in this review. Symptoms of heart failure are non-specific and may be seen in various non-cardiac conditions also, like diabetes number 1, chronic kidney disease number 2, anemia number 3, iron deficiency number 4, COPD, obesity. Then moreover, interpreting the science may be difficult in obese individuals and in those with chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. Therefore, in order to differentiate heart failure from the other conditions, we have to differentiate the heart failure from other conditions. ECG, then natriuretic peptide levels are required. Now, how important ECG and B-type natriuretic peptide or N-terminal pro-BNP natriuretic peptide is in patients with signs or symptoms suggestive of heart failure. Baseline ECG may show atrial fibrillation, LVH, repolarization abnormalities, and natriuretic peptide levels are usually elevated with a negative predictive value of 0.94 to 0.98%, which does not have the disease. The absence of ECG changes and elevated natriuretic peptide levels makes the diagnosis of heart failure unlikely. Once the initial evaluation is consistent with heart failure is seen, then look for structural and functional abnormalities of the heart by echocardiography. Early diastolic dysfunction, grade 1, characterized by A more than E. It is the actually mitral annular velocities, mitral valve annular velocity. A is more than E if there is diastolic dysfunction. On mitral inflow is not of much value as a single parameter, and other parameters are required for active diagnosis, which are shown in underneath table. So you have to find out left ventricular mass index and left atrial volume index also. Then E2, capital E2, that is small e ratio. Then mean E, septal and lateral ratio. Then tricuspid regurgitation velocity and mitral inflow velocity. I will explain this up in other slides. Here we have, you only remember the names because it is some difficult chapter. Are the ECG parameters strong enough for the differential diagnosis? No. We will discuss these parameters of table in further slides. Although capital U to small e is modestly specific and sensitive, one study by Dini has quoted the sensitivity of 59% and specificity of 95%. This is one of the most accurate predictors of increased left ventricular and diastolic pressure. Our value in day-to-day practice ratio of E to E range between 8 and 13 in suspected patients, and other parameters are required for an acute diagnosis. What are those? We will see further. Now, the value of E to small e ratio has its own limitations, which are as follows. E to E ratio is not accurate in normal subject where the diastolic dysfunction is not present. Then patient with heavy annular calcification, then mitral valve diseases, pericardial disease, tachycardia, bradycardia, FB block, arrhythmias, and mitral annular calcification and mitral valve prosthesis, any mitral valve stenosis grade more than 3 and with mitral regurgitation. So here you will find these hindrance to diagnose the diastolic dysfunction. Now accuracy is doubtful in patients of coronary heart disease and with regional valve motion abnormality. There are different cutoff values also depending on the site of measurement. From significant data on Indian population, we can conclude what? Reserved ejection fraction constitutes more than 50% of patients with heart failure in the community setting. However, when it comes to hospital admissions, most of the patients have accompanying systolic dysfunction. Patient was admitted because he was having more than 50% of the ejection fraction, but we found that it was systolic, not the diastolic. Lack of patient education and underreporting of symptoms may account for this disparity. As compared to the Western population, Indian patients with heart failure of preserved ejection fraction are relatively younger, attributed to higher prevalence and younger age of onset of comorbidities like diabetes mellitus in the Indians. Similar to Western population, preserved ejection fraction is more commonly seen in female, and hypertension, which is the most prevalent risk factor associated with it. Overall mortality associated with heart failure is higher in India as compared to Western countries. Apart from usual risk factors associated with higher mortality are older age, low ejection fraction, very few patients receive guideline-based treatment, which is an important contributing factor. Then myocardial infarction is more common in reduced ejection fraction than those with preserved ejection fraction who have a history of hypertension and aortic regurgitation. Then preserved ejection fraction are older and more often females. In preserved ejection fraction, average age is 74.4 years and more than 50% are female, and most of them are having hypertension following the coronary artery disease, atrial fibrillation and diabetes. Obesity related non-communicable diseases are on rise in South Asia, particularly India. The prevalence of obesity has increased from 10 to 15% in 2003 to 40% in 2007 in urban India. The prevalence of childhood obesity is also increasing. Type 2 diabetes and dyslipidemia seem to occur at a lower level of BMI in South Asians as compared to white Caucasians. These differences may be attributable to malnutrition, number one, sedentary lifestyle, number two, perinatal adverse event, number third, then genetic differences, then lower disease awareness and health-seeking behavior, and typical presentation in these patients. Then the applicability of international guidelines in the Indian setting. Treatment of preserved ejection fraction is mainly symptomatic along with risk factor control. Adherence to guidelines results in better patient outcomes, but the applicability of all international guidelines may not be possible in the Indian setting. As per the guidelines, diagnosis of preserved ejection fraction require what? They require the presence of signs and symptoms of consistent with heart failure, ECG changes, number 2, elevated BNP and anti-proBNP levels. Then lastly, echocardiographic evidence of diastolic dysfunction in the presence of normal systolic function. In the Indian setting, there are numerous hindrances to an appropriate guideline-based diagnosis. 75% of the Indian population lives in rural areas where health care is provided by primary health centers and local primary care physicians. The echocardiographic testing and lab investigations like natriuretic peptide are not available in this setting. Thus, by the time the diagnosis is established, the disease is likely to have progressed to overt heart failure. Values of BNP and anti-proBNP are useful in an emergency setting to differentiate between cardiac and non-cardiac causes of dyspnea. However, its use in India is limited. mainly because of its high cost and non-availability. Echocardiography plays a vital role in distinguishing systolic from diastolic heart failure. Assessment of diastolic dysfunction is further enhanced by tissue Doppler. This being a cheaper, easily available, non-invasive investigation, it should be performed in all patients with suspected heart failure. Vast majority of patients do not reach a secondary or tertiary care center where this facility is available. Now, is this diagnosis of heart failure? Is this diagnosis of heart failure with preserved ejection fraction being missed in India? I say yes. This is missed in the India because most of the clinicians have their own reservation in making a diagnosis of preserved ejection fraction confidently. Are we missing the diagnosis of preserved ejection fraction in India? I believe we are missing. Once a patient with dyspnea, whether acute or chronic, presents in the emergency and no etiological reason is found on routine investigation and ejection fraction is normal on screening echo, most clinicians start thinking of a non-cardiac cause of dyspnea and treat with a cocktail regime of diuretics, bronchodilators, antibiotics. Some of clinicians diagnosed as hypertensive heart failure, but it is not. Thus, the use of number 1 LV mask, number 2 left atrial volume index, number 3 E to E tissue Doppler data as marker of diastolic dysfunction is low, and hence we are missing the diagnosis in many patients. In my opinion, all such patients should have anti-pro-BNP estimation and detailed echo including tissue Doppler before labeling them as non-cardiac. Now, readmissions for heart failure account for more than 50% of the economic burden of the heart failure. Then, the importance of guideline-directed medical treatment and the role of specially trained nurses and paramedics has shown to reduce readmission in the heart failure. Then something new. Listen it. Role of same-day access clinic. The role of same-day access clinic for outpatient diuresis and observation units may help bring down admissions. Many studies are underway to demonstrate the role of disease management in heart failure in future. Now listen carefully. All efforts will be futile till the clinicians, means physicians, accept what? Number 1, the existence of a condition called preserved ejection fraction prevails in the world. Number 2, attempt to diagnose it at an earlier stage is required. Number 3, make an active effort to control the coexistent cardiac and non-cardiac conditions also. They should realize, the physicians should realize that symptoms of dyspnea with normal ejection fraction can still be a heart failure. Now we will go how to diagnose the diastolic dysfunction. There are 4 modalities to diagnose the diastolic dysfunction. Number 1, echo Doppler study. Number 2, radionuclide study. Third, hemodynamic. And fourth and last, tissue Doppler study. We will take Echo-Doppler study for diagnosis of preserved dissection fraction, that is diastolic heart failure. Diastole has 4 phases. You have studied in physiology. Everybody has read in the physiology. So we are coming to physiology. It has got 4 phases. The filling in different phases of diastole, LV filling. The first phase is isovolumic relaxation phase. There is no filling here. There is no filling here, but has an impact on filling of LV in subsequent phases. It is an active phase and requires a lot of energy. It is an active phase and requires lot of the energy. Then second is the rapid filling phase. Here filling occurs 80%, major portion of filling occurs, and it is governed by what? Myocardial relaxation, mitral valve gradient, and myocardial compliance. Then third filling is, that is the slow filling phase. This is dependent on compliance and stiffness of the ventricle. Very little filling occurs in this phase. It is only 5%. Then lastly, the atrial systole. Remember, atrial systole, very complicated thing, contributes 15% of LV filling. If LV is less compliant, the contribution may be increased to 30 to 35%. I think you are listening first time that in atrial systole, filling can be 30 to 35%. You might have heard only 15%, but it can occur up to 30 to 35%. A miracle. Why? Because less compliant LV. In less compliant LV, because in this case, atria has to push blood more forcefully and more blood. Atria has to push more forcefully and more blood. So 30 to 35% filling occurs rather than 15%, which you have learned in physiology department. It is just different. Now we are coming to diagnosis. Listen it carefully. It is very simple. You say diagnosis diastolic heart failure by echoparameters. Echo-Doppler diastolic function evaluation by American Society of Cardiology Guidelines 2009 and European Society of Cardiology Guidelines 2016. For this, 2 parameters are required. How to diagnose by echo? We require 2 parameters. Remember this. First is mitral inflow velocity curve. This is obtained by placing the sample volume of the first Doppler in an apical 4-chamber tube between the tips of the mitral leaf plate. I will show you further. Second, pulmonary venous flow pattern or mitral annulus issue Doppler imaging. This is obtained by a transesophageal echo, but can also be obtained by transthoracic echo also. You can see the normal mitral valve inflow Doppler E to A ratio. Here, larger one, that all that velocity is E and small is A. You can see this is the E taller, A is small. So here ratio will be 0.8 to 1%. You remember this ratio. If you remember this ratio, you can understand very well. Everything is here. This is the E taller, A small. And this is a tissue Doppler. Here E is this and A is this. So I tell you. So what happens? This is the isovolumic relaxation. This is deceleration time. If you tell the patient, so here I am just telling you the echo-Doppler velocities. This is this and this A is this. This is the atrial contraction and this is the aortic valve closure. Then you find E wave. Okay? So this E velocity is 0.85, A velocity is 0.56 and ratio is 0.8, more than 0.8 to 1. Remember the ratio of E to A is more than 0.8 to 1. Only this much you have to remember. Then you can understand further things. ठीक है? Now we go ahead. Diastolic dysfunction, 4 basic patterns or rules of dynamics are seen. Now remember there are 4 types of dynamics. First is abnormal relaxation pattern known as grade 1 diastolic dysfunction. Then pseudo-normalization, grade 2 diastolic dysfunction. Then reversible restrictive pattern, grade 3rd. Then fixed and irreversible restrictive pattern, grade 4. So now we come to first grade known as abnormal relaxation pattern. Earlier we have seen E was tall and A was small. But when there is mild diastolic dysfunction known as impaired relaxation, grade 1, abnormal relaxation pattern, then this E becomes small, A becomes tall. Very simple. When you get the grade 1 diastolic dysfunction, E becomes small, A becomes tall. And if you divide E by A, then ratio will be less than 0.8 to less than 1. Their ratio was more than 0.8 to more than 1. It has reversed now. See this figure. E small, A large. But if you tell the patient to do Wallace-Waugh manner or you give him nitrates, it will reverse. E is becoming tall, A is rather less than this. So this is the grade 1 impaired relaxation pattern. It is reversed by Wallace-Waugh maneuver and drugs like nitrate. So this is very simple how to find out the grade 1. Now this occurs in what conditions? It is normal after age more than 70 years without any disease. Listen it carefully, it is very important. This occurs in normal individual, grade 1, in the age more than 70 years without any disease. And clinical status will be what? Here left atrial filling pressure is normal, means 4 to 12 millimeter, or mildly elevated, means more than 12 to 15 millimeter. And patient will be asymptomatic. If a patient is having this grade 1 diastolic dysfunction, he will be asymptomatic. And after the age of 70 years, this is normal. And it can be reversed by Wallace-Waugh maneuver or drugs like nitrates. Very simple. Everybody can understand. Now we go to second. Very simple. Now come to moderate, second stage. Pseudo-normal filling dynamics, grade 2nd. Here again, you will see the star surface reversed. E is again tall, A is again small. So ratio is more than 0.8 to more than 1. But it is not normal. It is pseudo-normal. How? I will show you further. I will show you how it is pseudo-normal. You just see, it is same, E tall, A small. After Wallace-Waugh maneuver or drug like nitrate, it is reversed. Okay? Now what will, it occurs in what conditions? Left ventricular hypertrophy due to any cause, hypertension, aortic stenosis, hypertrophic cardiomyopathy, coronary artery diseases or old age. Now what will be the clinical status? It is associated with elevated left atrial filling and left atrial pressure, and there will be increased left ventricular and diastolic pressure with increased preload of the heart, which indicates further deterioration of diastolic function. Here patient is asymptomatic at rest. Patient is asymptomatic at rest and exertional dyspnea will occur. Fatigue is present. Pathological S4 present. Pathological 4 means what? Normally physiological S4 is not audible by stethoscope. This is the pathological S4 is heard by the stethoscope, not the physiological. Then this pathological S4 is present, which is generated by sudden deceleration of the jet of blood as it enters left ventricle with decreased compliance, and also jet of blood strikes the ventricle muscle during atrial systole, producing S4. This is pathological. Now we are going how it is pseudo-normal, because it isn't normal. But this is pseudo-normal. I will show you. So to find out whether it is pseudo-normal or normal, we have to go for this pulmonary venous flow. This is same earlier which I have seen, mitral annular velocities, EAEA. This is the pulmonary venous curve. Now what happens in this? Normal pulmonary venous flow pattern has got three components. First is systolic forward flow, that is S. It can be S1 to S2, S2 also. It is due to left atrial relaxation and descent of mitral annulus towards the apex of the left LV. Then diastolic forward flow. This reflects diastolic LV filling and is dependent on this diastolic filling, on the LV relaxation, LV compliance and LV pressure. Then the third is atrial reversal. When atria contracts, this is the atrial contract, then atrial reversal will be seen. So this is secondary to atrial contraction. The peak velocity of AR duration may be increased in reduced LV compliance. If the LV is non-compliant, means there is LV diastolic dysfunction, then this duration will increase. See this. It was normal. It has come to this place. Because blood is not entering in the LV, so it is going back to the atria and from atria to the lungs. When it goes back to the lungs, then there will be large atrial reversal. It means this is pseudo-normal. That was not normal. We have clearly defined this thing by pulmonary venous flow, but this is 100%. Just a few lines I tell you. As the diastolic dysfunction progresses from abnormal relaxation pattern to restrictive pattern, a phase comes when mitral inflow velocity becomes normal, and by mere inspection of the pattern, one may not be able to discriminate from the normal pattern, and diagnosis of diastolic dysfunction may be missed. This problem can be easily solved by looking at the pulmonary venous flow pattern, which shows a large atrial reversal wave resulting from atrial contraction. Although the mitral inflow velocity curve looks normal during pseudo-normalization phase, but patient will have some signs and symptoms of diastolic dysfunction, and clinical examination may serve as a useful guide to discriminate normal from pseudo-normal pattern. A decrease in preload with nitrates will decrease E velocity and increase acceleration and deceleration time. An increase in preload will cause increase in E velocity and reduce acceleration and deceleration time. This was theory. Now let us come. The pseudo-normalization pattern indicates further deterioration of diastolic dysfunction. Now let us go ahead. This is the third pattern, grade 3. We have come on the grade 3. See it? Please be attentive. This is third grade diastolic dysfunction. It is reversible, but and having restrictive pattern. Reversible restrictive diastolic filling. You see here, this is large E, small a. You have reversed by Walestois and Drudge. This is E, A. E has become small, A becomes taller. E became small, A became taller. And here the ratio will be more than 1.5 to 2. If ratio comes more than 1.5 to 2, think it grade third. If it is reversible, otherwise no. So now here you have to only remember it is reversed by wolfram and nitrate, and ratio will be more than 1.5 to 2. Now we go to fourth stage. Sorry. I am telling the causes of the third stage. It occurs in what? Severe dilated cardiomyopathy, restrictive cardiomyopathy, means advanced phase of infiltrative cardiomyopathy, that is amyloidosis and sarcoidosis. It's hemochromatosis, Fabry disease, glycogen storage disease, endomyocardial fibrosis, Laffer syndrome, radiations, the drugs like ergotamine and serotonin, and also in ischemic cardiomyopathy. Here you will see something fantastic. Something digestion. You just see this is here more bigger tall E and small a. This is one exception of the rule. This is one exception of the rule in very young, healthy and often athlete person. If you are young, healthy and athlete, you can see this pattern, but don't confuse that this is third stage. This is normal. There is supernormal diastolic function. This is supernormal diastolic function. E, due to suction of blood, in LV filling period, and it looks like restrictive diastolic filling dynamic. Don't confuse it with restrictive beta. Something very important. Very, very important. Don't confuse it with restrictive beta. Now, we will go ahead. Something important. You can keep your eye here. You see here what will be the clinical status in grade third. Here there is further increase in LA pressure and filling pressure, and further increase in left ventricular diastolic pressure with further increase in preload of the heart. Patient has dyspnea at rest. Earlier it was exertional, or at minimal exertion you can have the dyspnea, and pathological S3 present. Remember, pathological S3, normal physiological S3, you can't listen by stethoscope. This is the pathological, you can listen by the stethoscope. Now, pathological S3 is present as we decrease the compliance of the LV due to LVH and diastolic dysfunction, normal amount of blood empty in LV, challenges ventricular elasticity, generate S3, prognosis is poor. Now you can see this dilated cardiomyopathy where you see grade third, massive global dilatation and thinning of the LV muscles, and LA also dilated. There is extensive interstitial fibrosis, necrosis and atrophy of the myocardial cells, especially left ventricular subendocardial tissue. Then restrictive cardiomyopathy. Here both ventricles thickened, very thick ventricle and dilated, blistering and of the musculature due to amyloidosis, thickened mitral wall, thickened tricuspid wall. Then the third pattern of cause of the grade third is hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. It has got three big points everyone has to remember. Number one, asymmetrical MSC, big systemic closure of every wall. Big systemic closure of every wall. And some systemic anti-motion We are handed to the soldier in the yoga. Very important. Now get out the fourth thing. Very important. The fourth thing. Here, that cannot be yours. That cannot be yours. This is the great problem. Very important. Here, key to every job. In more than one point very good. And yeah, this is other kind of knowledge of when you are extracted. If you do not also when you can not diversified. Great heart, really the and it's a of the heart. This is and it's of the heart. Great heart and great growth, God of no sin. Yes, in that is I was talking so on. And it is simultaneous and realizing decreases because it's the end of the heart. Immediately, something is all 6 that is going to come. Great work. You want to take a photocopy by over and coordinate at home. Here you have to understand the way. Is stuck inside. How to this and you can't that category that what we take this here, velocity of each doctor, this is not very simple. This is literally job, this is literally and this is getting. This reaction should be more than 30, that is diabetes. Then green receptor and green receptor. This is receptor we are taking, this is receptor we are taking. Its ratio should be less than 9 liters per second. That is it, diastolic is coming. Then high custody registration should be more than 2.8, normally it is 0.2 to 0.7%. So, how to record this, I will show you. Here you can say, using positive knockout, high custody registration during so, this is normal. Right atrium, right atrium. His blood pressure is going from atrium to ventricle. But here it is coming back. Here it is coming back with great velocity. So this is diabetes. That if we measure left atrial volume index by measuring utilizing uniplane Simpson method at the end of this process, you can find out left atrial volume. And here left ventricular mass. You can measure the area length method or using estimated elevation of the left ventricle. You can measure the left ventricular mass. So you have measured all the parameters whether it is structure or function. If you measure all this, you can find out what is diastolic dysfunction. So here, very important to listen. Very important to listen. Finally, for diagnosis of vasoconstrictor factor, diastolic dysfunction, following criteria, let's say the European Protective Party 2016 guidelines. Number one, separate the signs of the heart disease. Number two, separate the signs of more than 50%. Number third, elevated level of BNP more than 35 and anti-BNP more than 125. It is in the acute setting of the diastolic dysfunction. In acute setting, non-acute setting, sorry. In non-acute setting, you will find BNP more than 35 and anti-BNP more than 125. But in acute setting, you will find BNP more than 100 picogram per ml, and in anti-BNP, you will find more than 300 picogram per ml. Then it is diastolic dysfunction. And lastly, fourth point, very, very important, echocardiography, there should be abnormal atrial and ventricular structure and function causing diastolic dysfunction. There should be abnormal atrial and ventricular both structure and function causing diastolic dysfunction. Then this is classified as diastolic dysfunction. Listen, there was a campaign between criteria of 2009 and 2016 and Canberra study in 1018 by all media, and they found out 38% out of this diastolic dysfunction with 2009 recommendation, and only 1% diastolic dysfunction with 2016 recommendation, and 30% diastolic dysfunction using Canberra study, 30% of this. Then 50% diastolic dysfunction classified as intermediate. Among these 15, 60 to 80% were from 2009 criteria. Therefore, to differentiate between normal and abnormal diastolic function needs further elaboration. Now, some questions of DM cardiology. Number one, if there is increased mitral regurgitation present, is it feasible for measuring diastolic dysfunction? I say no. Second question, if patient on mechanical ventilation, whether valves per maneuver possible or no? I say no. Then third question, if prosthetic mitral valve is it possible to measure diastolic dysfunction? I say no. Using parasternal short axis tube, pedo apical for chamber U, is it feasible to measure diastolic dysfunction? I say no. Now, I think this is the last slide, what I feel, or maybe no, afterward there is one more. What is the utility of diastolic dysfunction? Why we are doing this? Why we are accommodating here? There must be some reason. Why to find out diastolic dysfunction? Number one, whether it is systolic or diastolic, then earliest index of cardiac involvement, prognosis and longevity of the life, cardiac transplantation program, athlete's heart, DD between constrictive and restrictive. Number one, congestive cardiac failure, systole or diastole. The clinical features are same, whether it is systole or diastole, but the management strategies are different. It is therefore mandatory to discriminate congestive cardiac failure into systole and diastole before initiating treatment. Number two, cardiac involvement. Diastolic dysfunction is the earliest evidence of cardiac involvement in several diseases like CAD, hypertension, etc. The longevity and prognosis of the life by ejection fraction, by deceleration time. If deceleration time is less than 120 milliseconds in any patient with coronary heart disease or dilated cardiomyopathy, then think 50% will die irrespective of the ejection fraction. The utility in cardiac transplantation program. If restrictive pattern is reversible, then transplantation is cancelled as it improves by drug. So no transplantation required. If restrictive pattern is fixed, individual is taken for cardiac transplantation. Now regarding athlete heart. Athletes have left ventricular heart attack. We have to confirm whether it is physiological or pathological. If diastolic dysfunction present, it is pathological heart. But not present, it is physiological left ventricular heart of athlete. Now, differentiation between the constrictive pericarditis and restrictive pericarditis. This is last slide in this. This is last slide. Differentiation between constrictive pericarditis and restrictive cardiomyopathy. Both conditions closely mimic each other and clinical and hemodynamic differentiation may be difficult. Echo Doppler quickly differentiate. Patient with constrictive pericarditis show respiratory variation. Patient with restrictive cardiomyopathy do not show respiratory variation. Note, constrictive pericarditis is easily amenable to surgery with excellent result. Patient with constrictive pericarditis during inspiration exhibit decrease in mitral inflow E velocity and increase in tricuspid inflow E velocity. Likewise, during inspiration, the isovolumic relaxation time period is increased in mitral inflow velocity curve and decrease in tricuspid inflow velocity curve. The patient with restrictive cardiomyopathy do not show respiratory changes. Now, in the last but not the least, all efforts will be futile till the clinicians accept. Listen very carefully. The existence of a condition called preserved ejection fraction prevails in the world. Attempt to diagnose it at an earlier stage requires. Make an active effort to control the coexistent cardiac and non-cardiac conditions also. Clinicians, the physicians should realize that symptoms of dyspnea with normal ejection fraction can still be hard. The evaluation of diastolic function is of immense importance in the evaluation of several cardiac diseases and enables the practicing physician or cardiologist to sharpen their therapeutic armamentarium. This is intervention.